Well, winter's basically here. It is the first week of December, so starting to get pretty cold out. We should be getting some heavy snow any day now, and unfortunately that means getting the R ready for winter.
Who's there? Connecting rod.
That's good. Gone ahead and gotten it up on jack stands. Got the wheels off it so they don't get flat spots. Next we're going to cover it up and get it sealed up so no rodents get inside of it. Except that's the exact opposite of what we're going to do because we're not out of our minds. Definitely didn't go buying this car to not drive it in the snow. So we actually just got back from seeing Tom at Static Coatings. Had him fix a couple of bends on these. 3 of them had some pretty bad bend, not terrible, but bad enough to most likely cause the vibration I was seeing, which made me go find some new tires, or at least like new tires that were A, not as old, B, not as shitty, and a bit more snow friendly. Because technically these would have been fine in the snow. It really just comes down to driver mod. Any decent all-season with all-wheel drive will get you through the snow. These are some cheap Chinesium garbage. They're actually a little bit smaller than I would have wanted, but they came on the wheel, so I wasn't going to complain. They were good enough until I found something a bit better that wasn't brand new. So Tom went ahead, threw these on for me, fixed the 3 bent wheels, and we're ready to go. So show you guys the couple of short clips I took while I was there. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these on in the meantime. Here to see the man himself. Slap some better tires on these winter wheels. Right, so we're in action. Probably could have gone 2 steps up in the sidewall like I originally wanted to. Went with a 225 45 18. What was on there before was a 225 40 18. So here's a picture for comparison. Very small difference. Like I said, probably could have gone another step up. There's enough room in there. I just have made the mistake of putting too big of a tire on a wheel before, so didn't want to make that mistake again. But we also put ECS wing extension on there. Leah's Christmas gift to me. It's not too excessive, which is most of the wing options for these cars. They're just too much. They got crazy vents and stuff on each side, and some stick out really far, and the carbon fiber, like, just too much. But this popped up a couple weeks ago. ECS released it, and said to myself, I need it. It reminds me of the Mark 1 lips. It's just a very simple hatch wing extension sort of deal. The Nomad chugging right along. This is just to give you guys a little 6-month update on it or whatever. This is probably the best thing I've ever bought. It's just, I'm gonna put like 6,000 miles on it so far. We road trip to Maine and back, maybe to Mount Washington. No problem. Got the Christmas decorations up on there. Just ready to go. Really haven't had to do anything to it. It's a bit of a mess inside right now. But we've got subwoofer, inverter, amp, second fuse block in the back here. I got 2 speakers under the seats. I got another 4 to put in. All Rockford Fosgate stuff. And the sound absolutely cranks in this thing now. Thing's great. Here's a picture. Here's some of the pictures from the trip we took it on this summer. Did like 1,600 miles and it didn't even burn a quart of oil. So of course, while driving it home from buying it, the entire time driving it home, of course, I was trying to figure out which engine I wanted to swap into it because it is so slow. But after taking it on that road trip and seeing just how good it actually ran, and as I started to drive it more and more, it seemed to just run even better. Since the previous owner didn't put many miles on it, I realized it's best to leave this thing alone. So we're going to delete the emissions on it because it still has all the smog stuff. So it basically has like smog injection with the carburetor and the exhaust headers. So we're going to put a carbon headers on it this winter, do a diff locker, and just enjoy the thing next year. Eventually fix the rust on the body and repaint it. But we're nowhere near that point yet, so just worrying about the mechanicals, the very few things that it does need. Back to the R. The reason why I made the joke in the beginning of this video is because, yes, there really are people who store these cars for the winter. Not to say that everybody has to drive the same as everybody else, but it's just crazy to me that you would buy and spend the money on a Golf R and not drive it in the snow. And the reason why this discussion is even worth having in the first place is because if you're going to deliberately buy a car on this platform, the Mark 7, the MQB, Golf Jet or whatever, and not drive it in the snow, just get a GTI. GTI in some ways is superior, at least when it comes to handling, and you could basically get the same amount of power out of them, especially if you just slap one of the IS38 turbos, the stock Golf R turbo, slap it on there, do the 2 or 3 supporting mods, and you're going to be just as fast, if not faster, than a Golf R. Maybe not from a dig, but I mean, these aren't exactly drag race cars either. They're not race-bred cars. They're not Ferraris. They're just economy cars at the end of the day. They're lower tier sport cars. Not to say that they're Honda Civics either, but so that all being said, and another reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is because this winter I plan on doing some filming with this in the snow, as long as we actually get some good snow this year. There'll be no shortage of going out and screwing around in the snow with this car. I'm really not exaggerating either. There's been a handful of people posting up on, I'm in Reddit a lot lately, so I'm seeing it in the Golf R subreddit, the obvious Facebook groups, these people posting up asking what they should do or talking about getting ready to put their car in storage, posting pictures of it in the garage as they're getting ready to actually store it for the winter. And it's just mind-boggling to me. Like, I got to take that car out in a few snowstorms last year, and it's just a great car. It's not, like, listen to that. Listen to how great this thing starts up. Brown sugar. she's just so good. Everything about brown sugar is oh so sweet. So, anyways, I was able to, we had like 2 decent snowstorms last year, and see that the headers are leaking on this thing too, so the headers got to come off anyways. Like 2 very mild snowstorms last year, and I got the chance to see how the car does in the snow, and it's great. It is a great little car. I would recommend a Haldex tune if you really want to get wild in the snow, because they are front-wheel drive bias, but aside from that, they're absolute animals in the snow. As good as any other 4-wheel drive car, which if you're spending a premium to get the all-wheel drive version of a GTI, take it out in the snow. If you're going to drop $30,000-$40,000 on a car that's never going to see the snow, there's a lot more car you could get. You could get into a Lotus for that kind of money, and that will be twice as fun as a Golf or GTI will ever be. I don't get it. Some people try using the argument of like protecting their investment. If you bought a car as an investment, especially like under $40,000, that isn't like a Porsche or something that's actually valuable and will actually retain or grow in value, you're doing it wrong. You're not investing or protecting any kind of investment. Sure, as I modify this car, as I drive this car, it will lose some of its value, but we're talking a few $1,000s, not $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. I don't know. I bought this car to drive it, and sorry to go ranting on. It's just that the Mark 7 community is an absolute joke. Generally speaking, the Mark 7 community is a very sad place to be. There's endless people complaining about clutch chatter on these aftermarket clutches on these cars that are making 300-400 horsepower. Anybody who had a license or was just around cars in the mid to late 2000s, would understand where I'm coming from bringing this up, because that's when like factory turbo cars were actually becoming a thing. You would see them and be able to get your hands on them for relatively cheap. My first car was a Mark 4. And that was huge back then, because factory turbo, you put a chip in it and you're making another 50 horsepower to the wheels. So before these factory turbo cars were everywhere, you would have to put a lot of work into your car to get 300-400 horsepower. And it would kind of go unsaid that you'd have to put a big clutch in it. And one of the downsides of upgrading your clutch is it's stiffer, it's noisier, it reduces the comfort and drivability of the car. That just happens. So you got all these kids complaining about clutch feel and noise and stuff, yet they want to modify them to make this sort of power. They want their cake and want to eat it too. And then the non-stop, what clutch should I get? I mean, sorry to bring up clutch stuff again, but like, what clutch should I get is a weekly discussion. Just use the search bar. Do you know how hard you would get flamed in the Vortex days if you asked, what clutch should I get? If somebody already asked that 6 months prior? Because chances are you would search that, find that thread from 6 months ago, and somebody would link below as the first reply a thread that's a year older than that one with all the answers that if that person searched, they would find too. I don't know. I think the best way to sum this up is a lot of these Mark 7 kids never spent a day on Vortex, and it really shows. I was going to make like a dedicated video about this lip, like an actual unbox. I don't know why, I just felt like it wouldn't hurt to make. But with all the resentment that I'm starting to grow and have for the Mark 7 community, I'm not gonna. But instead, we're gonna talk about another reason why the Mark 7 community is trash. And this lip is a prime example of that. So this thing showed up with a protective film over it. I saw it right away. It took me like half a second to realize that the protective film was all scratched up and chipped up and not the actual lip. I said, okay, phew, no big deal. Sure enough, 2 days later, I jump on the Facebook group and some kid posting pictures of ECS is trash. They're the worst fucking company ever. They sent me this lip. It's all scratched up. And don't get me wrong, ECS is trash. I've been around these cars long enough to know just how bad ECS is. They don't suck all the time with everything. I've only made about 5 or 6 orders through them ever. I really avoid ordering from there because, again, I know how much they can suck. I know where they drop the ball. There's a huge trend of kids just hating on ECS tuning just because they see their friends or they're told to hate on ECS tuning. So, again, just to clarify, it's not that ECS doesn't suck. It's that these kids say they suck for the wrong reasons. So anyways, the film thing was one thing. There's like 20 comments of people saying, yeah, they suck, you should know better than to order from them. And then one kid before me says, are you sure that's not just protective film? He says, yes, I'm sure it's not the protective film. And then I come in and say, well, my lip is pretty good so far. I took the film off. There's no damage underneath it. So double check that it's not the film that you're talking about. He comes back like a couple minutes later saying, oh, yeah, it is the film. You were right. And then he's saying he had a lot of trouble putting it on. Which is fine if you have half a brain. Because there's 3M, double-sided 3M tape here, along the front edge here, down the middle here, and then up under, you really can't see, but up under the back here, there's tape, and that's what makes it a little tricky. It took me 2 seconds to put together a plan of attack of how to put this on without screwing it up. And I still managed to screw it up a little bit because it didn't seat right. I had to peel it back off. You can see there's a small hairline crack there. It's my own fault. Not a big deal. I was able to get it off and put it back on the right way. So, the only real complaints I had about this lip, there was a high spot here in the plastic and here. I had to trim it out a little bit. I think there was a high spot down here on each side too. No big deal. I literally just took a knife and scraped it down a little bit. And then on the double-sided tape here and then here, it didn't look like it was actually going to contact the paint. So all I did was add a second layer of double-sided tape on 3 or 4 spots, and just to make sure it was going to make contact, and it did. It's good to go. So the trick with putting this on was, naturally, this kind of fits like a U shape and clamps on. So anybody with half a brain, or more than half a brain, will look at it and go and say, don't peel all the tape off, because as soon as you try to put it on, it's just going to stick, and you're not going to be able to move it to have it where you want it. So peel just a little sliver of the tape backing off, just so it was hanging out so I could grab it. Got it all in place, and then slowly peeled it out and pressed it and pushed the lip down into place as I was peeling it out with 2 hands. So I didn't really explain the main reason why I was bothered enough about this kid in his post to rant about it like this in the first place. And it's because even after me and one other person more or less corrected him and called him out on his bullshit, because in my head I knew right away, like, this kid's just an idiot, and then still was polite and helpful about it. And then he eventually admitted to both things him being wrong about, like both having trouble installing it and being wrong about it being damaged when he received it. He didn't change his post. He didn't take it down. He still left up his initial ECS sucks. I can't believe they sent me this garbage post. Like, that's more or less what it said. And for the next day or so, even after we corrected him and he admitted to, like, being at fault for his complaints, new people were still commenting like, yeah, ECS fucking sucks. That's what you get for buying from such a shitty company. It's just unnecessary slander and undeserving slander of a company that, yes, they do suck in many ways, but they also provide stuff that other companies don't. So they're still a useful resource for everybody into Volkswagen and Audi, Mark 1 through 8. I'm all for ragging on people and companies that deserve it, but I'm equally against unnecessary ragging on people and companies. This lip is awesome for the $130 ship that it cost on sale. I think it was like $150 not on sale, which is still a really good deal in my opinion. I got it in like 4 or 5 days. So in short, mk7 kids suck just as much, if not more, than ECS tuning.